We acknowledge that Tri-Cities Community Television operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below. The Port Moody Arts Centre has a significant impact on local community by fostering creativity, cultural engagement, and inclusivity. Here's how. Supporting local artists. PoMoArts provides a platform for emerging and established artists through exhibitions, workshops, and public art projects. Events like the Shuffle Art Walk and rotating gallery shows help artists gain exposure and connect with the community. Arts and education and accessibility offer affordable and diverse art programs for all ages, including the Early Years program that introduces young children to the arts. Strengthening community connections. The center serves as a cultural hub, bringing people together through collaborative projects. Economic and tourism benefits. Cultural activities attract visitors, boosting local business. Port Moody isn't just an art center. It's a catalyst for creativity, connection, and community growth in Port Moody.
Hi there, it's Cathy Cena with Catching Up with Cathy and Tri-Cities Community TV. We would love to thank the library here at Poirier for donating the space to us. My guest today is Deanna Kayne, the Executive Director of the PoMoArts, right here in the City of the Arts. Deanna, welcome to the program, and thank you for being here with us. We're going to talk about art, and then more art and more art. So I'm sure that's right up your alley, and let's get right into it. We're going to just maybe start off with a little bit of your history, and it's great because I don't know your whole background, so I always love hearing about people's stories and things like that. And also, if our viewers don't know exactly who you are and where you came from, then they will today. Tell us about your journey to becoming the Executive Director of the Port Moody Arts Centre, and what's some of your background in arts that you've been doing in the past.
Great question. Hard to answer all in one bit. So I'll just take it layer by layer. Art has always been an integral part of my life. I didn't have a lot of like art classes or art education early other than school. But as I got into middle school, I just started to need it. So I started sketching and I started drawing. And my mom was like, "Where is this coming from? You've never done this before. How are you doing this?" And I love drawing letters. And so I started to have development in some of my own practices and things of that sort. And I always loved clay. I always wanted to do ceramics. And
I was going to ask you, what is your favorite medium? Yeah.
I love clay. And so in high school, I had an opportunity to take art classes at that high school level. Super supportive time to take it. I think that art in schools is so essential. And it was really cool to be able to bring forward some of the things that I've been doing at home, but I'd never really done anywhere else. And they had a little bit of ceramics, but no kiln. And so I could only go so far, but I just knew that I was interested in it. And I have an aunt who, my mother's sister, one of my mother's sisters, who married a Frenchman, and their family grew up in France. And so we saw them very rarely, but she was a potter. And I'd always loved that about her and was always kind of attracted to that, but just, it was at a distance. And so I was hopeful to be able to start that in high school. And then there was very little clay components, but I explored painting and drawing and loved those things and took art early university, but then had the practical conundrum where it's like, I love to do this, but what will I do with this?
Right.
So I did lots of sports and I did lots of arts, and then I just headed towards something academic. And when I landed my first job after graduating, I was working out of the municipality of St. Albert, and their Potters Guild worked out of there as well. That's where they ran all their classes. And so I started taking weekly classes, and I did that for 2 or 3 years. and absolutely loved it. Had a battle with the clay some days, and some days it was so smooth, but there was just something very natural and beautiful about the tactility that just kind of stayed with me. I took a glazing class from Red Deer College, and like bit by bit I kind of grew my own practice, started to do some sales, and then always had a home studio from there on in. My most makeshift one was when I was in a basement apartment, and my potter's wheel was under my kitchen table. My living room had a drying room, and then I had some drying shelves, and then I got a shed for the backyard and hooked up a kiln inside with all the ampage. And anyways, like I just
You
kind
made
of
it happen. You made it happen.
I just kept making it happen.
This is all before children and marriage, right?
Yes.
Because I can't imagine you're doing this all in a household of gosh.
It changes as time goes on, but there was always a space inside of me that felt a bit more whole when I could be making things.
Right. That's nice.
And I think one of the things that drew me to ceramics was that it is such an expansive area. There is never not something to learn or experiment with. And I was surprised to find that there were physics professors doing studies of glazing techniques and things like that, because you're getting deep into chemistry and other sorts of things. And and so for me, it was just this area that was always interesting and endless, and I could really just put myself into it. And I ended up going back to university and taking sculpture. And I wanted to have a more three-dimensional component to my clay practice. And I discovered plaster, and I discovered wood, and I did welding, and that three-dimensionality became something that felt so important. And I actually just recently, my mother is moving and has had a very large and very heavy piece on her wall for about 10 years. It's 600 pounds, and it's a figurative piece about our fragility when we want to move forward but feel a bit incapable. And so this large piece has luckily found a new home and will be moved this week. And one of the things that I find so incredible about artistic practice and creating is that it represents a certain piece of us at a certain time. And we need to look back on those, and we will revisit the whys and hows, and it will give us a beautiful moment of pause and a beautiful reflection on a bit of our life journey. And so it's exciting to have this move happening and feel those reflections and feel the meaning that it had for me then and the meaning that it has for me now.
Yeah, I bet. That's
you end up with lots of pieces, sometimes abnormally large and heavy and hard to truck around, but pieces of self that tag us in this very long journey of life.
Prior to taking on the executive director role, where were you?
Yeah, I moved to Vancouver to work at UBC. So I worked in development and alumni engagement for about 8 years.
Oh, that's very different.
Oh, totally. Yeah, very, very. I did a lot of events. So I had an events background originally, moved to Vancouver to work at UBC to do events for the university. And quickly wanted to keep learning and growing, and it's just an incredible organization. There's so much to learn about strategy and administration and all of those things. And I moved into the relationship management area for alumni and saw the impact of bringing people together in such a new way. I'd gathered them for art walks. I'd gathered them for film festivals. I'd gathered people for all these different sorts of things along my journey, and coming to UBC, I saw a scope that I hadn't in a lot of the community-based things that I'd done previously. And it was powerful to see what could happen when we pool all our resources and do things in a really smart way. And so I did that for about 8 years and had 2 kids. And each time I had an opportunity to become a mother to a precious new soul, it gave me another moment of pause and reflection. And I ended up going back to university again. I finished a master's when I had my second child. And my focus was administration. I did the UVic Masters of Public Admin, and so a lot of administrative and government-related functions, whether it's looking at through an economic lens, or studying cost benefit, or analyzing or designing policy. So things that were quite pragmatic. But I had a really strong interest in the shelter system. And so I did a master's on pregnant women in transition housing in British Columbia. After I'd had my first child, I went and I did some mini sculpture sessions with women in transition housing with my little baby. And it was such a powerful experience. And there was a pregnant woman in one of my classes that I had just gone through this whole experience with a partner in a home with all these supports, and she was bravely challenging a whole new chapter of life with very little tangible supports. And so it led me on a bit of a journey to learn more about what that experience is and what we're doing for that population. And so coupling some of those things together, I didn't know that I was going to step back into the arts. I definitely thought I would be working in housing, and I did. I worked in social housing for a bit. But, art has been such an integral part of my journey. When I saw the posting for the PoMoArts position, I felt very drawn to it and very excited to be back in art. And there's so much social benefit, personal and social benefit, that comes through art, that I feel like this position has given me an opportunity to really step into myself in a whole new way, where I can contribute strategy, I can contribute administrative components, I can make important decisions for an organization to help it be sustainable and thrive, and continue to do my best to build positive community as we go. So I think art has always been a medium for that for me, and then the opportunity to lead in such a passionate community has been very enriching.
So we know that PoMoArts, plays a vital role in fostering creativity. What are some of the most exciting programs you're currently offering?
Wonderful question. Generally, ceramics is always booming. It's incredible to see how busy that studio is. And it's an area that I love. So I feel like it's almost like the energies are coming with me. But it's incredible to see how much benefit working with clay has in so many lives. And so we have all the different classes: intro, beginner, hand building, throwing. We did a bit of sculpture as well, but there really is a very high demand to get on the wheel and to feel that centrifugal force and move with the clay. And so wheel throwing is a really popular one. We've expanded some of those areas, and our manager Isabella Chung has done a great job in trying to diversify the types of experiences and tools and techniques and decals and things like that people can use. We have been building out our cultural programming as well, and so workshops around different celebrations that happen throughout the year. We're just putting together a half-scene Nowruz workshop where people will be able to come, create the dishes, and then once they're finished, there's a celebration at the end where people get to have a potluck. And so
that's fantastic.
Really trying to bring those experiences full circle. We've also started a series. It's not a program per se, but it's an event series around. It has been really focused on cultural music, and so we partnered with VICO, the Vancouver Intercultural Orchestra Association, and they brought some of the incredibly talented members that they have who play music from all over the world, and we have these intimate concerts of 20 to 30 people who get to
at the Arts Centre.
At the Arts Centre in Appleyard, that holds that beautiful history and that hominess to it. And they get to experience the sounds and hear about where these instruments come from and understand some of the stories and the folk tales that are woven into these traditional songs that sometimes accompany the music. And it's been incredible to see how that's brought in pockets of people that we haven't seen at the Arts Centre before And I hope that we can continue to build out that cultural relevance and inspire people to learn about each other. And halfway through, we have some appetizers that come from that area. And so you get this really fulsome experience of learning about culture, feeling the music, tasting the food, and just have this moment where you're absolutely transported. And so those types of experiences.
That's what it sounds like. You're being transported.
Yeah.
Are you offering programs? You know, we're talking a lot about adult programs here. What's the earliest sort of ages? Do you have a preschool group of kids that comes in? Are you fostering a youth program and into the teens? Like, you know, is that still happening? What's going on with them? What are some popular things that they're doing?
Great question.
Yeah.
One of our most popular, so we do early years to
early years.
every age. And so one of our most popular early years programs has been music. So music time.
Okay.
And it is so wonderful. You have mums and babies that come in and they respond to sounds and they get to experience that together. And it creates a beautiful community. And I think that that's one of the things that the Art Centre will always do is bring people together, whether they're making something, looking at something, experiencing something. But that gathering around creative elements is still just so integral. We continue to try to find the right ways to engage youth. I think that there's so much pressure on that age group in general, and now with social media and all that is, there's a lot going on. And one of the things that we've started to do are mural programs. And so we've done a few mural camps and now have a mural inside the Art Centre and a mural on our garage door that were made by a group of youth in an intensive camp.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
that's great. Can you share a success story of how PoMoArts has impacted an artist or a community member? Is there one story that stands out?
That's a great question. The one that comes to mind, there are many. Over the years, this is a 25-year-old organization.
Yes.
It's old and young all at the same time, right? In the span of organizations, it's young, but so many things have happened in the last 25 years. I know that there are artists that have had their first show at the Art Centre and gone on to do incredible things. The story that comes to mind is this wonderful artist in our community. He's in his early 20s and is a really special young man, has neurodivergence and is experiencing life through those lenses, and has an incredible painterly approach to his portraiture. And we've been including him in some exhibitions and trying to connect him with other artists in the city so that he can have some mentorship and have some support. And I think that artist to artist relationships are so important. There's so many different paths that people are on, and giving opportunity for somebody to show work for the first time is really important, but then connecting them with other artists so that then they can have more conversations and learn and grow. And I don't know if I should share his name or not because I haven't asked him, so I won't. But you know, it's been wonderful to see his excitement, to see his art up, and his excitement for what he's doing, and the conversations that have come because he's meeting other people in the community. And I hope that continues to grow.
I mean, it's one thing to be an artist and to work in your medium, but isolation's hard. Right. And being able to introduce them to people, and, you know, that they can speak about like-minded things and maybe even challenges and successes. And he could sort of figure his way out through these other people that maybe are more knowledgeable, and maybe he's, you know, giving advice to other people in what he's doing. So exchanging of information and collaborating is always very, very important. What do you think some of the biggest challenges that you're facing today are, and how are you guys addressing them? You have a board of directors, you've got staff, you're you know, managing both sides of things. What are some of the biggest challenges at the centre itself?
Great question. This is a time of lots of change in the community in general. There's lots of development happening. There's lots of changeover in demographics. I think that our ability to embrace and create a welcoming space for a growing diversity in the population is an important challenge.
Yes.
Not one that I feel that we're ill-equipped for, but something that we are very mindful of. Things are changing. Who our community is changing, and it's important to be able to continue to find spaces for all the different perspectives, experiences, and identities that are there. We have an interesting political climate down south and in our own country that continues to challenge some of the social progress that we've made. And as an art center, we are innately a space that needs to create a welcoming atmosphere that is safe and allows people to offer a little bit of vulnerability in creating and expressing. And so as there's a number of conversations that are happening, we stand firm around our EDI and access and continue to find ways to support the many different experiences that are out there and provide a safe place for people to come and to create and to learn and to dialogue. I think one of our challenges definitely is facility-based. The Art Center is housed in these gorgeous historic buildings, but they have their limitations. And so our class sizes are capped.
Yes.
Certain types of artistic practices don't fit well. We don't have a springform floor. So I think our facility constraints are becoming more and more of a focal point. But that's all a conversation to be had. We also really enjoy having this character space full of character. Heritage homes hold stories, and they also have nooks and crannies and interesting spaces. And so while it's very idealistic or it's an ideal for many to have these like very large gallery spaces, we have these like homey rooms that create a very intimate experience. And so some of our constraints are also benefits.
Right, I know. As much as you want to expand, like, you know, the nooks and crannies. I mean, as you're walking up to your office upstairs, you hear that within the stairs and everything, right? So it's literally it is definitely.
But I think absolutely, going back to your question, facility expansion growth is definitely on the forefront of the challenges that we're looking at and how our strategies will build us into where we need to be.
Right. And are you working with the city on those kinds of things to try to find some expansion space for you and everything? And did you guys finally get your sign out front, or is that still in the works?
It's still a decade plus long process, but we've had some good conversations over the last year. Because of the heritage component, there really are some extra hoops that you have to go through.
Wow.
But that is one of the things that is absolutely on our list.
I know that Robert Simons, when for those of you that don't know, I was a board member for many years and also the president of Port Moody Arts, one of my very memorable times of being on a board. And Robert Simons, he was leading the way with that sign. And, you know, we were so close until you're not.
It is,
it's so we got quotes, we did this. Okay, we can't have that slits, we can't do this, it's a distraction. There's so many different things, and you know, and I live 2 blocks away, and I have to say I'm
still waiting to see it.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to see it, but I'm also remiss in the fact that you hold and you know, you tell me what it's called because I don't have it in my mind. The monthly art openings,
or exhibition openings.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So you're still doing those. That's going strong, and those
are not monthly, but yes.
Yeah, they're not monthly. Okay, but I do get that in the newsletter and all of those kinds of things. So it's just, I think for me, I feel it was an era that ended for me, and then I just haven't come back, and I just want to come back. You know, I know that once I set my foot back in the door, I'll be more comfortable and come a little bit more frequently. For the longest time, nobody even knew that Port Moody had an art center. Yet we were the city of the arts, and they weren't sure. They just thought it was a character home that they would drive by. But I think it's making more and more of a mark. And you know, you're seeing that with your registration. I hope that is increasing for you guys, and you are meeting the needs of the immediate community. And do you have conversations with other art sort of spaces like Place des Arts, for example? You know, you're talking to them about what's going on. I know I did that, sort of figuring it out. We were navigating through COVID too, so that was very, very challenging.
That's a very special time.
So it's always good to know what other people are doing, and you have to look at it as not being so much in competition with, but again, I'll use the collaboration word, right? You're collaborating with Joan. I think it's Joan at Place des Arts, right? So. What about fundraising and sponsorship and things like that? You know, what kind of role does that play in your organization's success?
Yeah, essential. That's one of the things I started to tackle early. We've been able to build in some multi-year sponsorship packages with some corporations in the area doing some work, and that's so essential. We need support. Arts fit in this very special slice of life where there are community services that are seen as essential. There are extravagant things that are seen as fun and only if you have enough money. And then there's art, where it kind of fits kind of in the middle. And if you ask an artist if it's essential, they'll always say yes. So you take a violinist and you take their violin away, life is not the same.
No.
So I think that as we continue to find the right way to support artists, artistic practice, creative spaces, we absolutely need support to do that. A campaign that we started late 2023 and have pushed a bit more forward in 2024, and we'll have more to say about this year, is access to art. And so we started a fund that purely supports those with financial barriers to be able to have art experiences. We've connected with some local organizations and have been able to reduce certain prices, and they've largely been focused on kids and families. Lots of meaningful stories where families that couldn't provide camps for their kids and wanted them to be in a safe environment, wanted them to have an enriching experience. We've been able to sponsor some children to have those camps in the summertime, or a Pro D Day, or other sorts of things, and that's been really meaningful to families in our community. And also the kids that get to come. We had a special family from Mexico, and the youngest son didn't speak a lot of English, and so we were able to pair him with his older sister, and they were able to take a few classes together, and it became, such an important time where he had an artistic side that needed to express itself, but also he needed to have a bit of support because that language component was still growing, and it was beautiful to be able to provide that and see the impact that it had in their lives. And so that access element is something that we're continuing to drive, and we'll drive even more this next year. But we've had multi-year sponsors, so we're so grateful for PCI Developments, Placemaker Communities, BD Living came forward with us, PCT it has renewed their naming sponsorship. So there's all these different ways that people can invest and support the Arts Centre. The number of times that we will hear people having beautiful discussions in our gallery spaces about the artwork and things that give for conversation and allow us to express ourselves or understand someone else's experience. It's essential. We need dialogue in our communities. We need dialogue in our own lives. And I think the isolation isn't necessarily just on artists. I think artists end up getting isolated because you're usually making things on your own.
Yes.
But it depends on the medium. You take theater and it's all community.
Yes.
So artists that work in isolation benefit from having these spaces because then they can connect, and we have a new series of workshops focused on artists. And so grant writing, marketing, how to create proposals, things that will help that business practice side. And then the isolation that we feel in life, where our stories feel very unique, and yet if we walk into a space where someone's expressed something that attaches to something that we've experienced or feel, then we feel more connected, and then we know that we're not alone in our experiences. Or maybe it's not exactly the same thing, but there's a multiplicity of stories that are out there, and we can help people feel more connected because those dialogues are happening internally or externally.
My next question is going to talk about vision. I feel that maybe you have the first part of it, but let's just see if you have the second part.
Sure.
What's the vision for the future of PoMoArts in the next sort of 5 to 10 years? Have you thought that far ahead?
Yeah, we just launched a strategic plan in June of last year, and we see art thriving in the streets, homes, and hearts of Port Moody.
Amazing.
And so we really want art to be central and accessible and impactful. Over this last couple years, our community engagement art projects have have been a mainstay. And so when we are out at Truth and Reconciliation Day, or when we have our True Colors Youth Pride exhibit, or National Indigenous Peoples Day, we are engaging the community, so people are having opportunity to partake in what might be a step forward, or what might be a part of supporting someone else's awakening or experience, building empathy, because we're all different.
Yes.
And our differences are what make us strong and also give us a lot of conflict. And art gives us an opportunity to process some of those big emotions and have some emotional distance. So the painting or the sculpture or the dramatic piece can help us dialogue through something that might be hard in other sorts of, relationships or situations to talk about. And it's an essential communication in our lives that is often overlooked.
So Deanna, if you could bring any artist or artistic project to PoMoArts, what would it be? What's the first thing comes to your mind?
There's a beautiful project in the States that was done a number of years ago, where this artist did a number of effigies that were created for a specific purpose and then floated down this river. It would be incredible to do a project on the inlet where we could engage the community in some type of dialogue, where they could create something either painful or hopeful and let it float, and have something that inspires light and connection through some of our experiences. We're all going through something. And I think that as we come together and recognize those things, an artistic experience like that can really be a unifier. And it was a project-specific piece that this artist had come to do. And then it became a regular occurrence in a cultural piece for the community, where every year there would be this opportunity to make and create and light something and let it float. And I would love to bring something like that to Port Moody.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of red tape, but it sounds like transformational, part of letting go, part of just becoming new again, like all of these, I feel like all of these feelings, like all of a sudden, as I envision myself, like having something go down the inlet like that, of course it'd have to be safe for the environment and all. Yeah. Of course we want that, more than anything. Lastly, what legacy do you hope to leave as the executive director of Port Moody Arts?
Great questions. Cathy, you're full of great questions. I guess I would hope that I've been able to make an impact on positive community and a recognition for the impact that art has in our lives. It's overlooked often, and it's taken for granted that music uses up all of our brains, that dance helps us transform our feelings and process emotions, that just visually seeing certain colors elicit certain emotions and thoughts, and that there's nostalgia, wonderful and painful, that images and sharing each other's expressions can bring out. And so I hope that I will be able to say that I've moved us forward in our capacity to understand and embody the power of art.
Yeah, I feel that you definitely will be doing that, and so much more. We're listening to Deanna Kayne, the Executive Director of the Port Moody Arts Centre. To find out more about what's happening in Port Moody, in the arts itself, PoMoArts.ca. You can find them there. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Cathy with Catching Up with Cathy.